everybody, welcome back. We are here with Season 2, Episode 3. And before we get into anything too far, there will be spoilers. So if you don't want the episode or the show ruined for you as a whole and you haven't seen any of it, please save these videos for later and come back once you've finished. Thank you. That being said, in my last review, I did forget to add that the episode ended with Durin and Disa receiving an invitation from Celebrimbor to meet at his forge. Episode 3 opens with a horse, and the horse isn't happy. Basically, Captain whatever his name is trying to calm the horse and tell them that they're going home. Some soldiers say that the horse won't listen to anyone, and they eventually just let him go. The horse comes back to the town from Season 1. Orcs surround him and they get a tie on him, but the horse fights back because the horse is a badass. They wind up letting the horse go because it runs into the Black Forest, and apparently nothing comes back alive in the Black Forest. I bet he will though. The horse goes into a place where we hear chittering. My first thought was, is Shelob gonna make an appearance? That would be funny, because she'd be an old-ass spider, if that's the case. The horse finds a seal door, and he's all cobwebbed up. The spiders start to hatch, and he fights to get free with the help of his horse. Him and some orc wind up fighting. I guess this orc was still alive, and this spider pops the orc's head like a zit. It's really gross. Now, at this point, I am thinking, why the hell he hasn't gotten up and ran away is beyond me. He just stays there.
What would have been your last words to Drew?
Run, bitch! Run!
I don't know why. I don't understand what it is with writers that keep writing this kind of thing, where the guy just stays on the floor and doesn't run away. We saw that in The Acolyte, and I had the same question then. What the fuck? Get up and run. It's not that hard. Use your legs. Captain whatever is mourning a dead king when this lady starts talking shit to him about whatever she's saying. Something about, you're mourning the king, but you're not mourning your son, blah, blah, blah. The captain has to explain the surroundings of the room to the blind queen regent. That's when some lady comes up and slaps the absolute shit out of her.
It's only the beginning of our mourning.
Smack my bitch up!
Being the good queen she is, she pulls the lady in and hugs her. They both cry, and I think it's evident to everyone who hadn't known otherwise that she has lost her sight. Senator Dickhead from before comes into her chambers. I find it quite odd that he can just walk into her chambers in the middle of the night. I mean, she is the queen regent, right? So I don't care what kind of politician or relation they are. You'd think the guards would be like, hey, no. And then they leave her alone. They know she's blind, right? He's also a creepy fucking cousin. He's like strokes her cheek.
Future or white her past.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
And apparently he wants her to choose a gown for her coronation. She chooses white like her father, even though he wanted her to choose red, which I think is going to come back later in a very stupid way, but it's going to come back. Now, me personally, I thought he was going to trick her by giving her the wrong gown, but I was wrong about that. This dickhead goes to a bar and he's talking to this table of shitheads about how, you know, her place with the crown and all that stuff. So the table of shithead basically conspired to take the throne. A man named Ulandir, a Númenórean soldier who fought alongside the queen, makes it crystal clear that them talking shit about the queen won't be taken lightly, no matter how high class they are. And rightfully so. Basically, this chick from the funeral tells the shitheads at the table that she found something forbidden and dangerous in the queen's room. If you've seen Season 1, then you know it's a Palantir. Basically, she stole the queen's Palantir, and yeah, I don't know how she was able to pull that off. Again, are there no guards watching her room and like who goes in and out? You know what I mean? Like they're not curious like why she's carrying an orb out of this room? Again, I have questions, but there's no answers. As a quick aside, I will be explaining what a Palantir is in this moment. So just real quick off Wikipedia, for those of you who don't know what a Palantir is. Palantir is one of several indestructible crystal balls from from J.R.R. Tolkien's epic fantasy, The Lord of the Rings. Palantirs were used for communication and to see events in other parts of Arda or in the past. The Palantirs were made by the elves of Valinor in the First Age, as told in the Silmarillion. While the stones show real objects or events, those using the stone had to possess great strength of will and mind to direct the stone's gaze to its full capacity. The stones were unreliable guide to action, since what was not shown could be more important than what was selectively presented. In Lord of the Rings, a Palantir has fallen into enemy hands, making the usefulness of all other existing stones questionable. So that's just a quick little fun fact for you about the Palantirs and why they're dangerous. Back with the orc. This orc is complaining about going to war. An orc that doesn't want to go to war. Just when I had high hopes for this show that it would turn around for me, I can't believe what I'm fucking watching right now. This orc has a wife and kids.
Sauron is no more.
As you will it, Lord Father.
I want you all to know that I literally stopped watching the show at this point. I had to come back after about 20 to 30 minutes because I just couldn't believe what I seen. An orc with a wife and kids doesn't want to go to war. Let's just let it settle. Anyway, Damrod shows up. Damrod is a big fat bastard hill troll. He wants to know where Sauron is. Remember the last time I said the timeline is confusing? Well, the dwarves are with Celebrimbor and Sauron. So how long does it take that messenger to get there? Who fucking knows? Celebrimbor offers to make the rings. He tells them the rings are powerful and will help them. Power to help their mountain as it helped their great tree. He tells them he offers it to them because his king isn't fond of mining for it. Sauron starts talking his shit to them. Durin knows something's up because Sauron, for some reason, thinks it's a good idea to talk for Elrond when the dwarf he's talking to is like his best fucking friend. I don't know about you, but if someone tries to talk to me and say, hey, well, your best friend, that ginger fuck such and such, I would definitely know if they actually spoke to him because I'm not an idiot. I know how my friend talks. You know what I mean? So the fact that Sauron thinks this is gonna work is insane to me. And then the fact that it works is even more insane to me. You know what I mean? We're moving on because that's all I can do at this point. Durin tells Disa as much anyway. Sauron goes on playing Celebrimbor for the fool that he is in this show because the show writers made him out to be that way. Celebrimbor, being the Sauron simp he is, writes a letter to the High King saying he's closing his forge and joining them in Lindon. This way they can make the rings in secret without his knowledge. Great idea, Celebrimbor. Great idea. Isildur and his horse find the most disgusting lake they can find, which he correctly thinks twice about before drinking from. He sees dead people in its waters, and he takes boots from the dead before continuing on. They find dead bodies, and it looks like the men there were ambushed. This woman stabs him thinking he was an orc.
You crazy bitch!
She pulls out the knife and wraps him up. She's a cute girl. She questions him and then shows him a map. He thinks his dad went to some spot on the map with her people. They go to the spot but find nothing. She lets him know that she's betrothed.
You hoping to find kin as well?
My betrothed.
Well, it's only a few streets away. I'm moving in with my boyfriend,
Fuck
Ian.
you.
They come across a man who's barely survived orcs. Now, typically, orcs don't leave people alive. So this guy, who's obviously a trap, turns out to be a trap. Wow. I was fucking surprised. Now, I know he's tired and all, but he's a Numenori. They aren't average men. He should be able to hold his own. Anyway, the elf dude shows up and saves him, and he's a total dickbag, by the way, for no reason. Cut to a funeral, and now we know why he's so prickly. Girl boss from season 1 died. I'd feel bad for her, except it was her stupid fucking decision to leave the fortified position they were in to go to some easy to raid town where she got a shit ton of people killed. So I don't give a shit. Anyway, Elf and her son are upset. Stepson don't like Elf Boy now. Back in Dwarftown, people are hungry. Food merchants want the king to open up the food reserves. They only have about 3 months in reserve. The king says to send them in, but instead, his son Dudin comes in. He apologizes and tells the king about the rings. More importantly, and more intelligently, he also shares that he doesn't trust this power.
This power in Eregion, I don't trust it.
We cut back to the elf, and the elf is telling Isildur that the poison that the orcs use on their arrows kills humans over time. He couldn't save his woman, and he also tells him he was abandoned by his father and his family will be whole. This strikes a nerve in the son of the woman who died, I guess. The elf tells the kid that the people are lucky to have him there to heal them. Now, this little kid's kind of a prick, and he responds that their healer just died on a pyre. Arendir tries to share his wisdom about anger consuming you whole to Theo. Theo is a complete pussy.
Did you ever know my father?
No, I did not.
Neither did I. But I know this much. He wasn't you.
Maybe if I'd raised you, I could have made you better. And not some weak, sniveling pussy.
He says that their relationship is ashes just like his mom, and that made me laugh. I'm not even joking. I laughed real hard when he said that. He decides he wants to be one of the men that serve Adar. The Adar folk aren't having it. Apparently, it's an ambush or something, and something large grabs Thea. The Queen Regent has her coronation. She walks down the steps and makes her way to the throne without help, which catches her cousin the shithead off guard. Some said she's a queen of lies. She speaks out and she asks if more wish to speak. Well, they pull out the Palantir and she admits it was hers. An eagle arrives and they say it favors her cousin. Now, I'm betting that they use the Palantir somehow to make this happen so that, you know, they make this guy Pharazôn look good. I don't know why an eagle showing up would signify Pharazôn when it showed up at the moment right when she needed it. Wouldn't it make more sense? Like, oh, the eagle's here for her because it showed up for her father too. But then this guy, like one of the dickheads from the fucking table from before, is all like, it's here for Pharazôn. It's here for Pharazôn. Back with Sauron's simp, and they drop some mithril into the forge, and then that's where our episode ends. Look, I don't want to spend all day on this review. I don't even think this episode deserves my respect or my time. No matter how you feel about the things I say in my review, no matter how you feel about racial representation in the show, no matter how you feel about the woke messaging, there's an importance, an underlying respect that needs to be had for the original authors and the source material of something that you're adapting, especially as a filmmaker. If you are someone who enjoys stories, you love books, you love being whisked away to faraway lands, you have to have a deep respect and a deep appreciation for the source material. Maybe that's not always going to happen. Maybe sometimes adaptations are better than the source material. That's not the case here. Tolkien was very meticulous and very precise, down to the very little, tiniest detail of his stories. So when you make changes to these stories, they need to serve a purpose inside the story, not outside of the story to the audience, inside the story. So when you make an orc not want to go to war, and an orc have a fucking wife and kids and an orc baby, you need to have a real fucking purpose to make people want to accept this. And this is just in general, right? What I'm going to say next is in general, because I think it needs to be said, and I didn't bring it up in my Star Wars reviews. And I think this point gets lost in the sauce a lot because people get caught up in the wokeness and oh, you're just racist because you don't want this and that. Let me be very clear. If you're going to tell a story, right, and you want to change things in a major way, giving orc babies and having orcs not want to go to war, there needs to be a real purpose, a real believable purpose. Because when you don't do that, and when you do something like orc babies, or like you do with the Acolyte, where you have the Jedi look like complete fools only to prop up a Sith character that's poorly written, in a story that's poorly written, you're going to lose your audience. There's a reason it's important to stick to source material, because no matter how you feel one way or another, woke, not woke, there's an underlying truth that will always be true. These stories have stood the test of time far longer than these show writers have been around in most cases, okay? In the case of Star Wars and with Lord of the Rings, these are stories that are precious to people. You have to understand that. No matter how woke you want something to be or how not woke you want it to be, whether you feel whatever politics you want to throw into it, these stories are precious to people. They are tied to people in deep ways. Stories have deep meaning and deep value to human beings. We are social creatures. There are people out there who have read Tolkien every year since they were a kid. It was something they shared with their family. There are people who watched Star Wars and Luke Skywalker since they were a kid, watched it with their family, with their father, with their mother. And then there are people who have lost those parents who introduced them to those beautiful stories, whether it was to cancer or old age. So when you change these stories and you do things like orc babies and orc wife and children, or you make the Jedi look like fools, you need to have a really good fucking purpose behind it within the story, not as an allegory for the outside world, not as a reflection of the world we live in today. That purpose needs to be within the story and speak to people in a relatable way. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm sure the day is coming where people are gonna go through my reviews, whatever it is they need to go through, and drag me and call me whatever they want to call me. But I will stand on this hill under that same exact reasoning I just gave you. And I will say this. This show, just like Star Wars The Acolyte, is complete disrespect to people who have grown up and loved these stories. I didn't grow up reading these books, but I grew up with Peter Jackson's films. I grew up playing The Hobbit. I grew up reading The Hobbit. Things like this are just so blind to the source material. It's just mind-blowing that anybody at any production studio would give it a green light. It blows my mind, right? You want to give elves short hair. You don't want them to be as ethereal and mystique or, like they were written. Okay, I'll let it slide. Cool, right? But when you take characters that were meant to be evil and have only a desire for war and murder and killing and eating humans, and you try to turn them into relatable people that have families and wives and kids, you're doing the same thing that Star Wars The Acolyte tried doing. And you're trying to prop up evil. You're trying to prop up an ambiguity to good and evil in a story where that doesn't belong. Star Wars, just like Lord of the Rings, is very clear-cut about the dominion of good and the dominion of evil. And it discusses the gray areas in between in its own ways. And that's why it's important to stick to the source material, because this is tasteless and disrespectful and a waste of my fucking time. I am not looking forward to the next however many episodes are left. I had genuine hope with episode 2 because of Durin and Disa. It's a lack of creativity and it's bullshit. And just like George Carlin said, it's all bullshit and it's bad for you.
It's all bullshit, folks. It's all bullshit and it's bad for you.
I'm DonnyXCage. Thank you for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed. If you didn't enjoy and you made it this far, I thank you for giving it a chance and listening and hearing me out. Feel free to let me know what you think down below. So please feel free to share your opinions about the show, your viewpoints, how you feel about whatever was said down below. If you did enjoy this video, please do all those wonderful things that YouTubers ask you to do. Like, comment, share, tell your friends, tell your mom about me, and I'll see you in the next review, I guess. No matter where you are on this beautiful blue marble of ours, good day, good evening, and good night. Peace.
It's here for Farrakhan. It's here for Farrakhan.